when we're looking at investment, it's got to be with the right people, the ones who actually care and they want to do something, because it's what we're all about. But when I was working with the Highland councils, they'd had chargers put in that had 3G SIMs. And you're talking about machines that cost quite a lot of money, like 50 kilowatt charger, they're about £25,000 each. It is a bit harder for women, female and neurodivergent. Our brains are telling us that we're crap half the time anyway, because that's what our neurodivergent brain does. You are not just trying to live up to your own expectations, you're trying to live up to what you think everybody else's expectations are of you.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Leaders series. We have Liz Allan today. She is a leader in the network of EV charging, and she has a number of hats. She is the MD of Full Circle, which is a EV charging consultancy. She runs a podcast called Electronic Evolution, which is a really good podcast if you're interested in this. And she is now the founder of ChargeWise CX, which is a business that helps companies and individuals and networks to build best practice within a very, very complicated and ever-changing sphere, which is EV charging, electronic vehicles, and the wider power and utilities world. The reason I know this is because I have been speaking to Liz myself during my own EV journey over the last 6 months. She's been incredibly helpful to me. And I know that this story, this podcast, and this narrative that she's helping us with will help others when you listen to it. So without further ado, here's Liz. Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for asking me to come on.
Well, it's great to have you here. It's great to have an entrepreneur in the EV and charging world, and it's really it's good to have you. And as we've said, you're a startup, the ChargeWise CX founder, a fellow podcaster at Electric Evolution.
I am that too.
And the MD of Full Circle CI. So you wear many hats. And we met, didn't we, at the Reading Tech Cluster?
It was the launch in July, wasn't it? Seems ages ago now.
Yeah, it does. And we were talking there about for full honesty, I have leaned on Liz. I've recently bought an EV car, and I'm very happy with it. But I've leaned on Liz a lot to help me through these quite testing and quite challenging and quite complicated things. So thank you, Liz. You've actually helped me to actually buy and join the EV world. So yeah, I can highly recommend you as a friend and guide in this world. So hopefully you'll be able to pass that on.
Well, exactly. Do you know what? It's one of those things that it isn't easy, and I think there are a few hurdles that people need to get over. So I'm just glad I was able to help. In fact, I've just done exactly the same, but I also went for a test drive with some people who just retired, and they had no clue. They didn't know the difference between a plug-in hybrid, a hybrid, an electric. So kind of tried to shine some of the light on that. And that's kind of that's the kind of person I am, really. I just want the best for people and to help them understand, because moving to an EV isn't always the easiest. But it's brilliant once you get there, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. I'm going to put a shout out to, I've got a Volvo EX30, and I absolutely love it. It's got every single mod con. It puts my aircon for me in the mornings. It's got everything. So I am a big fan of my Volvo. Sit out there now. So yeah, I'm a big fan. In cloud blue as well.
Oh, nice. I tell you what I always find really great is that, one of those really cold mornings in winter.
Yeah.
And you've got to get into that car, and normally you'd be scraping the windows and freezing for a little while. Actually, to be able to demist everything from inside and just at a button.
And I mean, not to boast, but my heated steering wheel and heated seat. So it's like It's like walking into a cocoon, Liz. It's fantastic.
It
But
is, yeah, the heated seats will definitely come in
yeah,
during the
yeah.
winter weather, I can tell you that.
That's right. But obviously, if climate change, I mean, it's not actually that cold yet in the UK. So it's still quite mild. So I think climate change is
Mm,
definitely helping us, I would say. But just
mm,
give us a flavour, Liz. I think it's obviously already come across like the passion that you have for this subject. And that came across to me, and that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to kind of get you involved, because we want to talk to leaders in our network, and you are a leader within this world. Um, and I'm quite interested in your journey a little bit about how you kind of come to be here in this kind of automotive EV world, because it's not where you started. So can you just give us a bit of a flavour of how you come to be in this world, and how you come to be an expert and leader in this community?
So, if I give you a little bit of background, and you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the south.
No.
I live in Reading. We're not
Yeah.
too far away from each other
We're
anyway,
not.
are
No.
we?
Yeah.
But I'm
All the best
originally from
people live
West
in Reading,
Yorkshire.
Liz.
I'm originally from West Yorkshire. I'm originally from Halifax, and I moved down in the 1990s. But I kind of started off in like a service and maintenance company working in parking technology, which sounds really kind of totally disparate, but and I'm also neurodivergent, so that's the other thing. And I was diagnosed with ADHD. I'm now 57. I was diagnosed at kind of like 54, 55, which it was funny. That was a journey in itself. That was massive. So when I kind of say to you that I've had kind of quite a few different roles, and I've worked for myself on and off since the 90s as well. Um, if you know about people who have got ADHD, you're kind of more likely to recognize those traits, because we're very, very passionate people, but we kind of, you end up, you can use the skills that you've got as an ADHDer, as I call us, to move into different sectors. And I think maybe that's part of what's happened, really. And I've been married to my husband. That's the other thing. So I met him when I moved down south. We met in a band, funnily enough.
A
I
band.
was singing it. Yeah, I was a singer in a band,
Oh
and he
wow.
came as the bass guitarist. So we kind of
Oh,
met in this band. It sounds all wonderful, doesn't it? But it was like a hobby band, really. We just enjoyed kind of going out and just meeting up and what have you.
for
Um,
people that have
so
listened to this podcast, I'm a big music fan. So what type of band was it, Liz?
I suppose because we wrote some of our own stuff as
All
well, and
right.
that was brilliant. So we were
Mm.
kind of, I suppose, maybe rock kind of indie type
Oh,
stuff, you know.
I feel like I would
So
like this band, Liz. This is a new thing for me. So yeah,
there you go.
that's a bit of me.
So, but
So
it was, and we haven't kind of, I think the last time we played, really, it's one of those things that work gets in the way, doesn't it?
mm,
And the last time we played was at my 50th, and I've just told you how old I am. So,
mm,
so it's a little while ago, but
mm.
but yeah, I love kind of I have sung stuff like The Cult, She Sells Sanctuary, and stuff
Oh
like that.
wow.
I mean, pumping the songs out are just,
Yeah.
it's cathartic. It really is. So I do miss it. I really
Yeah.
do. But that's another conversation.
Well, yeah, we had I think now as I go through the leaders series, we had John Barlow from Red Consulting, probably, or Consult Red, sorry. He's a drummer, so now we've got a singer and a drummer. And there actually was a guy who played the sax, David Lindup. He played the sax, so we've got three.
Oh, we just need to get us.
I have
Yeah,
no musical talent, so I'll be the manager. I'll
you
get
could
it. I'll
do
get
that,
yeah.
and then we could get my husband in as bassist. Because if you've got a
Exactly.
drummer
So
and a
just
bassist,
need a guitarist now. Then we're rocking and rolling. So yeah,
and I do know a guitarist as well. So there you
fantastic.
go. So we could do that, and a keyboard player.
So
But
you
yeah.
met you met live in the band, but
We
that's not
did.
your that's not the day job, right? So what does he do?
No, no,
Yeah.
and actually, I suppose really I should tell you a little bit about him, because
Mm,
what my husband does has a massive bearing on what I'm doing now with the
mm,
EV sector. So when I met Richard, my husband, he was working for the Met Office,
right.
working in kind of climate change, and he'd kind of, I can't even remember how long he'd been working there now, but he ended up leaving the Met Office because they moved from Bracknell down to Exeter. We nearly went down there, but he got a job in Reading Uni, and he's been there ever since, working in kind of is now a professor of climate science. So this kind of stuff. So working, living with somebody who's got such a passion for climate change has been part of my life since we got married. Well, since we met in 2000, and we've been married since 2004. So it's been a long time. So actually, all of that has just, I don't know. It's one of those. It's underlying, but it stays there. And it got to a point where, so I was I'd been contracting, doing, because my background is business improvement. But I'm not so I've got Lean Six Sigma qualifications. I would say I don't know whether I think you do know about the Six Sigma side of things anyway,
Six
don't
Sigma,
you?
Agile, all those types of things. So yeah, Prince 2, that sort of stuff.
So I would say that out of I'm more lean than Six Sigma.
Yeah.
Because lean is kind of got more, I would say it's more of a people focus, but I'm not a typical business improvement person, because I do look at the whole picture. I'm very holistic, and I think I always kind of say that my brain's a bit like Minority Report. When you watch, I don't know whether you've seen Minority Report with Tom Cruise.
Minority Report has been mentioned so much in the last 3 months on this podcast, just because it's so linked to the AI world, isn't it? So everyone's like, if you remember a Minority Report, all the things they can do, you can do this now. So yeah, I think Minority Report is probably the most mentioned film on this podcast.
Oh my God. Well, so I would say my brain's like that.
Right, okay.
I'm not saying I'm AI. I'm definitely not AI. But
you
my
are
brain
real.
is very
I have met
much...
you, so yeah.
It's very much like, kind of there's lots, and I can deal with lots of things at once. So, when he's kind of pulling all the things in on the screen, I've got multiple inputs coming in at once. Sometimes it can be a bit, oh my God, but actually in other times when I've been doing consulting, I can sit in a room with people, and this is even kind of doing the EV work, and I'm pulling in all these inputs, and it's going into my brain, and I know what the outputs are. I usually know what their problems are fairly soon, because the problems in business tend to come up quite regularly. There may be different businesses and different sectors, but they tend to come up quite regularly. So you'll kind of go, oh, well, that's slightly like that. And when that was happening there, then this is what we did to kind of make improvements this way. So I suppose really, when we started kind of moving into the EV sector, and it's specifically EV charging, and I know you've had experience of that already, haven't you?
Yes.
The EV sector and the EV charging sector is growing so massive. It's just such a rapid growth at the moment. I have people who say to me, "Oh, we've got no chargers in the UK." You'll have seen on some of the map software. You've kind of got Octopus Electroverse, you've got ZapMap, you've got a variety of map software. And at the end of September, we had, and I haven't seen the update for October, we had 88,000 chargers in the UK, which in some cases it doesn't sound a right lot, but actually it's not bad compared to kind of the number of EVs on the road.
And that's public charging, isn't it? So that's not the charging that people have in their own homes.
No, it's
most people who get an EV will charge in their own homes, and you can't charge a petrol car, or can't fill up a petrol car in your own home, can you? So, I mean, that already balances it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there is the thing where there are, I think there's about 40% of people in the UK who don't have a driveway and can't necessarily park and charge at their own home.
Fair. Yeah.
We're very lucky, and same as you, we've got a home charger because we've got a drive. But there are lots of other, and I've got to meet lots and lots of people who are providing so many different solutions. So we have what we call cross pavement solutions now. So if you're in a house on a terrace street, for example, I don't know whether you remember the rain channels that sometimes you have on a street. They have them in Oxford and all over the place, but you'll see like a rain channel. And what some of these companies are doing now is they are creating a channel for a charging cable. So you could still, even if you've got a terraced house, you can put a home charger, because that is the cheapest way to charge really, on your house, and actually run the cable through a channel to the pavement and the cable's usually long enough to have it so that either, because not everybody can park right outside their house if they're on Terrace Street. We've got a road near us where I know they're always fighting for spaces, but at least that cable will kind of stretch enough down the channel and kind of go one car one way, one car the other. It's not perfect, but there's all sorts of different. I love the innovation. The innovation that's coming through this sector is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Because and you get to see all of these different things. There's one company called Nodum that have kind of have actually they're manufacturing like a boom arm that will come over. It looks a bit it's kind of a bit like not a telegraph pole, but kind of like it comes over and drops down depending on what your driveway is. There's other Coventry City Council at the moment, they're working with gully companies, and so like you can put a charger on a lamppost because there's electricity already there. It's just amazing. Honestly, some of this stuff is just amazing.
And that's just in the
But
UK, isn't it? And then it's kind of worldwide, different kind of companies, different organizations kind of driving this. So I guess to get to it, obviously this is something now that you've moved into, and you're now a leading voice within it. And the key thing you use is obviously your podcast, which is obviously, doing very successfully, is on to 165, I think, the Electric Evolution podcast. But also you've got this new business which is called ChargeWise CX, with which you are the founder. And I think this is so can you just take us through just quickly, because this is quite interesting, I think, in terms of the difficulty and the complication. Obviously we talk about it being innovative and fast moving, but it's also quite complex to kind of get into for everybody. So what does ChargeWise CX do? What do you bring to this industry?
Okay, so we just incorporated fairly a little while before you and I met.
Yeah.
And that's why, I kind of went to the Tech Hub launch, because something like this is very different for me. It's not consulting at all. And I had a chance conversation with a developer who is amazing. He's just blown my mind. He's a chap called Warren, and he's over in Ireland. And because I talk to so many people, and I'm quite well known in the sector now, which has amazed me, but it's just they're just such a wonderful group of people. I had a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about the fact that there's moving forwards to kind of 2030, 2035. We need to have a kind of an ability to benchmark and provide best practice, and that's another thing that I'm really, really passionate about, is actually making sure that we've got best practice moving forwards in the EV charging
and that
sector.
links to your background, the lean and the the Six Sigma. That is business improvement. This is kind of, I guess, societal improvement, or at least structural improvement, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of say, so I was working with 4 Highland councils at the beginning of this year, so between February and June. And Scotland was always very much ahead of us with the charging. They've had EV charging, public EV charging, since about 2013. So, they had it in since then. And to be honest, the councils knew, so they're looked after by an organisation called Hightrans, and there's a wonderful project manager called Gemma Robinson, and we got talking about the problems that they could see with their networks and the feedback they were getting from drivers. Because I'm very much because I'm a people person and I'm an EV driver, I've experienced these things. So I basically worked on a project looking at their charging across like 12 months across 4 councils. And this was all really, really manual, the stuff that I had to do. It was downloading all the back office system data and doing this manual trawl. So really, this and another conversation with another guy called Neil Riddle from a company called Power that do kind of charge cards for EV charging. Those things got me thinking, well, actually, do you know what? in order for us to to move forward and to be able to benchmark, we kind of need a platform. And there are some platforms around, like I say, kind of ZapMap or more kind of B2C, but there's a need for a B2B platform to manage that level of benchmarking, being able to help the charging networks to benchmark their best sites against their competitors, but also to flag if there's any potential risks, because we've also got some public charging regulations now, which mean that higher powered chargers, not your home charger, but kind of anything that's a 50 kilowatt. So that's kind of something that we call a rapid. The terminology for all of the charging needs to change, really. It just gets confusing because you've got rapids and ultra rapids. And I've kind of said, what's it going to be called if it gets really, really, like over 200 kilowatts? This is an amazing kind of thing. But anyway, so basically, there's a rule that they have to be 99% reliable. And there's penalties of up to £250,000 on a charging network or whoever owns those chargers if they fall below that reliability. So there's a lot of reasons for charging networks to be able to understand their own networks, but also the customers. So like local authorities need to be able to, because if you've seen probably around the Berkshire area, we're starting to get charging rollout, and around the country you'll start seeing this because it's taken a couple of years to come through. But there's a funding pot called Levi, not the jeans, but it's called a Local Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund, and that's been rolled out. It's taken a while to come through, but the pots of money, including Berkshire where we live, have all been allocated, and they're now going through procurement with the charging networks to get them on board. They will install and manage them, but then they have these, in a lot of cases, they have a revenue sharing agreement. So basically, just coming right back to why ChargeWise started. ChargeWise started to help people be able to see this holistically, be able to see the risks, to see the good things, to actually be able to benchmark and provide either the charging networks or the kind of the customer, so the local authorities or a fleet provider or hotels, because charging can be put in anywhere. Supermarkets, it can be put in at your local gym. Charging can be put in at places you wouldn't even think of. Garden centres. We charge our car in a garden centre en route down to Exeter sometimes. Things like that. So it's about putting things into a platform where, rather than, say for example, if a local authority is contracted with 4 charging networks, which happens, that means they've got, in order to recognise what's going on with their networks, they've got 4 back office systems to look at. So what we're doing is we're aggregating it and putting it into a unified dashboard with reporting and AI built in the future to be able to ping people that email to say, you're at risk here. Or look at this utilization. We call it utilization. So how many vehicles have been charging on the network? Because that's what you want to know. You want to know what your revenue is.
Because when an industry is moving so fast and innovating, like we talked about before, innovating so fast, the problem with that is there's no real standard answer, is there? Or the answer that was happening a week ago, or certainly a month ago, is different to the answer for now. And I would suggest then what you're doing is trying to provide a roadmap for that. And it is so complicated. It is so complex, isn't it? The challenges of this EV world, EV charging world, EV world, getting into it, it's a little bit like joining a cult in some ways, isn't it? That you don't really know what you're getting into, and it seems like it's going to be really, really hard. But then when you're in it, you're like, no, actually, it's absolutely fine. But once you've got everything set up, but the getting things set up, I mean, I'll give you an example. So we used a salary sacrifice scheme called Love Electric. Love Electric introduced me to Hypervolt, who were going to install my charger. But they work with OVO to somehow do some sort of test on the system. They have to have to go
Yeah.
through OVO, but then I had to get a dual switch with EDF to get
Oh my God.
the OVO to run. And it was just if I was the sort of person that didn't like to sort out knotty problematic problems, because that's kind of my thing anyway. Probably a little bit like yourself. I would have just given up.
Yeah.
I'd have said, "Sorry, I'll buy a petrol car. This seems too hard," you know. And I think
Mm,
lots of people will do that. So I guess what you're providing here, and it sounds like more like you said, the business to business, because it must be equally as complicated for councils, for organisations to implement these, to give them to people, is that this is the best possible way of doing this. Trust
it
in
just makes
me.
it so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with, like, that local authorities haven't got loads of money.
No.
We know that there's
Will
some
this
that
be
kind of on the verge.
will this be a money making thing for them? Will it help them to make money?
Well, yeah, because actually they, like I say, there's revenue sharing agreements in there.
Yeah.
So really the charging networks are doing all the work, but actually
The councils
for the
can.
charging
Yeah.
networks, yeah, to have them on, in the local authority
Mm.
catchment, that's where they get the revenue from. So you do want to know whether they're actually making any money. You need to know whether that charge is working, because
Mm.
to be honest, and I'm not, there were some absolutely fantastic charging networks out there, but there are some that aren't really putting the effort into kind of like the service side of things and
Yeah.
making sure that they're doing what we call preventative maintenance,
Mm.
or checks all the time, so that they can see whether there's any potential issues, and what we've kind of realized, that the dashboards that a lot of the, say, like the councils have got, or the landowners have got, they don't integrate the customer net and customer sentiment, so the feedback. So what we're doing also, we're aggregating that feedback, because you might try and charge, and I really don't want to put a downer on this, but this is sometimes what happens. But you've got to be you've got to be quite canny about the charging networks you use. You might try, and it takes you 3 attempts to charge your car, you
Mm.
know, and it might be you, right? It might be because you've not read something properly, or you're not quite sure how to do it. But it might be the fact that the payment terminal is a little bit iffy, or maybe the communications, because in the charger there is so many different things. It's not just the machine, it's not just the hardware, it's all the software. So you've got payment, you've got comms. So you've kind of got you've got a SIM card in there, and they have roaming SIMs now, so that actually if any of the networks drop, it should pick up a network. But when I was working with the Highland councils, they'd had chargers put in that had 3G SIMs.
Yeah. So you
And
lose
and you're
that.
talking about machines that cost quite a lot of money, like a 50 kilowatt charger, or plus upwards, they're about £25,000 each. But looking at the revenue side of things, the local authorities and the landowners and everybody wants to know, but you don't want to be chasing your tail. Local authorities have got no time. People haven't got time to chase all of this. So what we're trying to do is we're pulling the platform together. At the moment, we've got about 56,000 charges on, and we've got, like I say, 88,000 in the UK. So we've got a bit of a gap.
75%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're getting there. I mean, like I say, we only incorporated a few months ago, but so it's that kind of traction. And I'd said to our developer, who's brilliant, like I said, look, if you can kind of contact the charging networks first, and if you have problems, then I'll jump in, because I was kind of thinking, let him ask all his technical questions, and then I'll do my bit. But it's been really, really interesting. We've got some potential collaborations that are going to happen already. It might be long term, but I'm really pleased with how it's the interest that we're getting compared to the consultancy work that I was doing previously. This is kind of like, because it's a product and it will really help. It's making a difference.
I think people want to have places they can go to learn from. I think that as this sector grows, that we need leaders within it to help people, kind of guide people through until it becomes a norm.
Yes.
And yeah, as I've said, Liz, you've helped me, so maybe you'll kind of help others. So now you've got this startup, and I know obviously this is a very new piece of business, and you've mentioned there with regards to yourself, the kind of neurodivergent, and I think you mentioned ADHD and maybe autism as well. I think you said I was fine to talk about that. How has that been?
Yes.
Like, starting a startup in a very, very fast moving environment, but also dealing with those particular kind of challenges, I guess.
I suppose, I mean, the thing is, because the ADHD helps in a way, because it means I can, like I say, I can take multiple inputs in one go. It can be quite draining because you're kind of, it's kind of like you're just on, your brain's just surging all the time, taking all that information in, and it can be, and I'm
It's like you're an
part of
ultra
this.
rapid charger, Liz.
I'm like an ultra rapid charger brain, yeah. But actually, and I will never let anybody down unless I have to. So recently, somebody asked me to send something in on a specific day, and I worked until 2 a.m. to do it. But that was my aim. So we're very hyper focus is something that we're very, very good at, but then we kind of suffer afterwards. Do you know what I mean? If it's like something like that, and I don't do it that often, but the one thing I would say, being neurodivergent and female founders, because I think actually more than being on the neurodivergent side, the female founder in a sector that is very male orientated. I did find with the consultancy that somebody actually said to me, do you think that people would take you more seriously if you were a man? And
Really?
that blew me away.
Wow.
Yeah, that blew me away.
Did
because
they say that in the 2020s, or was it the 1970s they said it?
That was last year.
Wow.
That was last year that somebody said that.
Do you think that's true?
In the sector, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer.
Yeah.
Because it is harder. I'm not trying to get my violin out, get anybody to get their violin out. It is a bit harder for women. We have to kind of, female and neurodivergent, our brains are telling us that we're crap half the time anyway, because that's what a neurodivergent brain does. So actually you are not just trying to live up to your own expectations, you're trying to live up to what you think everybody else's expectations are of you. So I think the things that I found a little bit complicated for me, to kind of get through, and this was after the Tech Hub launch, was and that was really useful to kind of understand what a business moving forward, what ChargeWise moving forward should look like with regards to bringing people in who have got that expertise and knowledge that are, of finance and funding and things like that. Because this has been an organic Full Circle CI, which is the consultancy business. So I call them sister companies. So ChargeWise and Full Circle are kind of sister companies. But they're very, very different. But the fund, Full Circle was just organic. I've never had to get funding or finance for it.
Yep.
Whereas ChargeWise, at some point, that's what we're going to need.
Yeah.
So I think trying to find answers to questions. I always say, I've got a phrase. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So if you don't know what you don't know, how do you know what questions to ask? So asking people like yourselves and some of the guys that I met at the, kind of the Tech Hub, and they had another meeting recently, and that was really, really good because that was at EY in Reading. I'm very good at picking things up, and then I'll write them down, and I'm off with it then. So I'm, it's a bit like going down a rabbit hole sometimes, but I'm one of these people who I like to see the whole picture. It's a bit like, having if I've got a jigsaw puzzle with a bit missing, I've got to find it. The Gemma, who is the project manager for Hightrans, the work I did earlier on this year, she calls me a bloodhound because I'll just keep going until I
it's
find the
done.
answer.
I think, if you think about the world that we're talking about here, that what's important is to be a kind of trusted voice, and also a voice that isn't, So I personally, I think the kind of the female aspect and actually kind of caring about what people think and helping people through it will actually be useful, because you're not some scientist or salesperson selling or explaining in highfalutin words. Like, this is real, these are the real things, and this is how you can navigate through it. So yeah, I personally think that it's the right kind of course of action, and I think your honesty, the way you deal with things, will actually help. But I guess what you're saying there, when it comes to the funding side of things, is taking that idea, because there's obviously always other people with those ideas, taking that idea and then saying to people, invest in this idea as opposed to that idea, and this is why. And I guess that takes one of the challenges there is confidence, right? If you've never done it before, it's like, how do I go in front of these? I mean, I know I did an MBO 2017, first time the guy sat down with me, that, you're so used to like normal business meetings where people are generally reasonably like polite, even if they're not going to buy from you, they're polite. First thing this guy sat down, is like, why the hell should I buy your business? I was like, oh, this is a different world.
Yeah,
he was our investor in the end, so that's just his style. But but it's straight away. Yeah.
I was going to say I have met this one specific investor who's very much like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of puts it. I always say, if somebody shoves, I'm good at one-to-one like this, but if somebody puts a microphone in front of me and asks me loads of questions, which one of the guys that I know does this in our sector, and I just go, blah, 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 I need prep. And that's the other thing about being neurodivergent. I need to know prep, and I need to prep, and I need to know context. But actually, that's not just ADHD. That's kind of the autism side. That I'm an organizer, I'm a relationship builder, and I will keep making those relationships until I'll keep building those relationships. But my ADHD side of my brain goes, but I want to do it now. It needs to happen now. But these things do not happen overnight. So you kind of have to kind of go, right, these are the steps, and this is how we move forwards. So
and how is that translating now into your own kind of vision for your leadership, for your team, for your culture that you're building?
I suppose, I mean, the passion is always part of it, and the way that it's funny. Somebody was saying to me, why have I put together a business plan? Well, if you want investment, you've got to have a business plan. And it's about building on that. But also, so I've got Michelle, who's been working with me in Full Circle for about 4 years now, where she's on the marketing side. We kind of put our heads together and look at how we want this to move forwards. And at the moment, whether I can answer that question or not, it's part of this is about our passion and about the fact that everybody involved in the ChargeWise project, and I'm not just saying this, we're all EV drivers. We understand it. We know that actually persuading people, no matter where you come from, but persuading people who are petrol heads to move to EV is difficult. I've had investing in conversations, if I can get my teeth in, conversations with people who have been involved with investors and they are not interested in EV. And that's just like shouting at the wind. You have to kind of know, who to talk to and who to kind of leave until, they might just come into this or they might not. So it's, to me, moving forward, we've got to, and I know I've not answered your question properly, but when we're looking at investment, it's got to be with the right people, the ones who actually care and they want to do something, because that's what we're all about.
And I mean, with the political changes in the world and different viewpoints on climate change, the importance of climate change versus other things. Have you seen a change in the last 12 months since have you felt you're battling up a bigger hill now to make this thing happen, or do you think that when it comes down to it, people still see the benefits of this?
I think we've got a lot to do by 2029, because 2029 is a pivotal moment, isn't it? When we're talking about the next set of elections and what potentially could happen. So I want to put as much effort into this business as I possibly can to help the UK. And I'm not just talking about ChargeWise, I'm talking about the UK to be in a good position where we can say it's that tipping point now, and we can prove that charging and driving an EV is worth it, and charging is not where people are kind of, there's not enough, but it's not just the not enough, it's reliable. You can use it. When you turn up to a charger, that the same way as you would do to a petrol station, that it's gonna flipping work. We've got a lot of work. So yes, I have seen changes, especially in the US.
Yep.
And the people who I know, there was a guy recently who was going to be working in the US and kind of expanding his business out there. And in February, he changed his mind. It wasn't a good time. So and it does actually feel like that that message has gone back about 10 years in some ways, but that's over in the States and maybe slightly trickling over here. The biggest thing that we had in the EV sector was the negativity coming from the press. Part of that has changed because the press now understand, or some of them still don't, but I think we know who they're paid by, and that's another conversation again. But some of the press are more positive about kind of EVs in general and kind of moving to electric and decarbonisation and that kind of stuff. But we've got a lot of things to do to actually communicate the positive reasons, because do you know what? It's not just about climate change. It's also about reducing air pollution. I interviewed on my podcast Rosamund Adu-Kissi-Debrah, who is the mother of a young girl called Ella, who died aged 9, probably about 8-9 years ago now. She was over in Lewisham in East London, and at the time that she died,
they've made the Ella's Law about, isn't it? I think.
Well, they're trying. Ella's Law isn't in place
right,
yet.
okay, they're trying to make an Ella's Law.
Yeah. And basically, when she died, they did on the autopsy. They didn't actually know what she'd died from. She had this major asthma attack. And it just breaks my heart when I spoke to Rosamund. But eventually they worked out that it was to do with air pollution, because we're just breathing it. We're breathing it in. So it isn't just, when you're driving a petrol or a diesel car, you might not see it, but actually we're kicking out all this crap out of the exhaust. And, so, and I'm not going to get on my orange box about that, but actually it's not just the climate change side. It's actually making sure from a health point of view, because if you've got lots of people who are suffering because of air pollution in in their area, even in Reading, we've got the IDR, we call it's the inner distribution road. I wouldn't want to be walking around there, anywhere near there, because the queues are just horrendous. Where I live in Caversham, just north of the river in Reading, we get bottlenecks kind of coming across both bridges. And it's just anyone living around there, I just feel really sorry for them, because you're just breathing that stuff in,
Do you think
just
the way people work, the key things for me, right, as a person getting into EV, the things that I really liked about it were, I like the cars now. I think they look nice. They go fast.
Yep. Instant
right?
talk.
They're
Yeah.
they go fast, which I like, and I like the kind of the cheapness of it. So I kind of
Mm,
feel like, and I think maybe this is what kind of started with Tesla, isn't it? I know Tesla's, but Tesla made it look beautiful, right?
mm,
And it's not so much. I
mm.
don't think people obviously care about climate change, but they love saving some money and they
Yes.
love things to look nice,
Yeah.
right? You want nice
And they
things,
love
and if
to
it's
drive.
yeah, and it's got a kind of a cost saving benefit of it, and
Yeah, yeah.
those are the. So I guess kind of coming back to your point is what's really interesting about like the vision, and my advice for any leader really is the vision isn't so much for funding or for kind of, I mean, it is for that, but really it's to buy in your team. It's to say, right, this is our vision. This is where we're
Yes.
going as a company, um, and that's what I really. That's what every year we do a vision. So we tell our people this is what we're going for this year.
Mm,
This is the key elements, and I find that really helps. And I think that's my advice to any leader, including yourself. Like that's where visions are. That's what vision. So something for someone to buy into. You know.
and also thinking about that, and I'm not just thinking about this from a selfish point of
Mm,
view. It's what your legacy is as well. I would like, even if I helped people a tiny bit like yourself,
mm,
moving to an EV, and this couple that have retired in Reading that have just moved to an EV,
mm,
if I help them a little bit, and I help, if we can do
mm.
that, and just, and oh God, this sounds really naff, doesn't it? But it's kind of helping the world be a bit of a better
Yeah,
place for
yeah.
everybody,
To
you know?
to evangelize it, right? It's a tricky journey, but if you can lead people through that tricky journey, which is, I guess, is what ChargeWise is doing, and the other things that you
Mm,
do, making one person at a time, right? Because it's a time.
yeah.
I mean, and then you kind of go to government, right? So I guess what do you really feel to kind of help this, to help you companies like yourself, right? Startups, entrepreneurs within this clean tech space, within the EV charging space. What should the government be doing? Because they seem quite, we talked about being too political, but they seem quite confused with what they want to try to achieve in this world,
Mm.
right?
It does kind of feel a little bit like, we talked about this before we started recording, didn't we? About they're kind of giving with one hand with regards to kind of like the electric car grant, which is up to 3,750,
Mm,
per vehicle, depending on where it sits. And then they talk about this road
mm,
tax, pence per mile. And also there's the kind of the tax, the tax on cars. There's just, it doesn't seem like an even playing field at the moment. There's not. It worries me in a way about the incentives to get people to transition.
mm.
That's the biggest thing. It is really mixed messaging. But I mean, I suppose if I say it this way, they've only been in the most recent government. They've only been in power for a year and a bit,
Mm.
so they're still getting to grips with it. But it just concerned me, the fact that they're trying to appease a lot of people, but it's kind of, you're damned if you do and you're damned
Well,
if you
yeah. If you
don't.
try and appease everyone, you'll appease no one, won't you? That's the
Exactly.
problem. You have
No
to
matter what you do,
you have
you're
to
going
pick a
to piss
course.
people off.
Yeah,
Excuse my French.
totally. And I think
So, but but to me, it's about. Do you know what? I'd love for more honesty.
mm,
Just please, just tell us tell us the truth about what's going on,
yeah,
and and I know it's not
where
going
your
to happen,
head's
and
at.
I'm not that naive,
Yeah.
but I'd love for more MPs, etc., to understand, especially EVs. And there's an organisation, I don't know whether you've heard of them, called Electric Vehicle UK. They've just got a new CEO called Tanya Sinclair, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring lots of different, say, like EV manufacturers and other organisations that are involved in the whole EV sector, whether that's charging or whatever, together as kind of a unified. They're doing the unified voice, so theirs is more of a comms side, and they did a ride along with various kind of MPs. So Electric Vehicle UK it's kind of like an offshoot of a kind of work that kind of Robert Llewellyn and a chap called Dan Caesar have been doing. So Robert Llewellyn, who's ex he's still in Red Dwarf, but Scrap Heap Challenge and stuff like that. But if you look at the work that they've been doing moving forward, they're trying to, theirs is all the communication side of things. So they try, I think we've got to get some really good positive messages out. Do you remember, I mean, you're not as old as me, but kind of like, the public information campaigns, like Charlie said, or Green Cross Code or things like that. We don't really have that anymore.
No.
It's trying to get the public to be aware of all of this, and like you said, it's not necessarily easy. I think you had extra complications because of the
my
fact
house
that
is old and, yeah. I mean, to be
also because if you've got your home energy under one supplier and your kind of your agreement is with another supplier through your business and things like that, then it's trying to get it to match up, isn't
That's
it?
right.
But it can be easier.
Yeah.
As an individual, we've got now in the house, we've got an EV, we've got a charger, we've got solar panels, we've got a battery, and we've now got a heat pump. We've had a heat pump for just over 12 months.
You are net zero then, Liz, would you say? You're carbon neutral.
I'd like to say so.
That's very fantastic, yeah.
In the summertime, my God, my husband gets really excited about, what we're making, because you can actually export, and it costs you get more back for exporting your energy than than it costs in an evening in some cases. But actually, overall it's we are as net zero as you can possibly be as a family.
Fair play for that. And I guess from your side, then, I mean, one of the things we talked about here is like vision in leadership, right? It's very, very important. It's something that you're driving within your own business. It's something you're trying to drive within your community. And what it seems to me is when it comes to our leaders, there's not so much vision for this, is there? That we want to see more vision, more opinion. And that vision could be, this isn't the way we're going. But when a government or leaders say they want to be net zero, they want to drive this, obviously some powerful, voices, oil companies, etc., might not like it. But if you make a decision to do it, then you've got to do it, haven't you? And like you said, you can't appease everyone. What when you talk in your community, and I know you're very connected within that community, what do you think people are doing to try to drive this agenda and try and help there to be a vision?
The amount of passion that's in this sector, you wouldn't believe it, and I think like you said about just one person. They're all considering it a win if they actually. So somebody recently was just saying to me that their dad had driven an electric van, and he's up in North Yorkshire, and he's an ex-firefighter and was such a petrol head, and he was like, "Oh, I really like this." It's that one person. That's kind of all it takes is just to try and if you've got people who, there's more people now that are driving electric, and like you said, you've said it wasn't that as easy as it could have been. For me it was, because we just kind of did it through the family, rather than as a business. But I think it's just talking to people, and not everybody's gonna move into the let's kind of fly the flag for electric. But everybody that I know is so committed to this. They're so passionate. It's just the community is amazing, and they just want people to see how worthwhile it is, because it is really.
And I think what I really like about it is it's still a business. It's still a business proposition. This isn't some and let's put it so airy fairy, tree hugging or something. This is actually like, to me, it makes good sense. Like, why would you not drive a car that's really nice, that drives faster and costs you less money and is better for the
Yeah.
environment? Well, it's not like it seems like a no-brainer to me. I cannot understand why people wouldn't just say, well, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for this. I
But
get,
it's because if they've not driven one and all they've heard is negative
yeah,
feedback in the
well, they
press
don't like Elon
and Dave
Musk
down
now,
the pub.
you know.
Well, yeah, but like Dave down the pub,
Yeah,
Dave said that EVs are rubbish, or my hairdresser says
yeah,
that
or it's really
EVs are
hard, or
this, or
yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah blah, or you'll read certain tabloids, that literally are just pumping that out because they're.
Well,
I have my thoughts
Clarkson
on
hates them,
who
doesn't he?
they're.
So
No, do you know what? Actually, Clarkson drove a Renault 5 recently,
oh,
and he
did
said it
he?
was really good.
Oh well, we basically just need to get Clarkson on side, and I think
I know.
that would be, you need to get him on the podcast and him to just agree
We
with
were all
us.
gobsmacked, but
Yeah,
yeah, he really likes the Renault 5 because he was like he thinks that most EVs are like driving a washing machine,
he does say that, doesn't he? Yeah, I think
but
he's
actually
yeah. I mean, I've driven a lot of petrol cars that are a little bit like driving a washing machine. So yeah, um,
exactly, and actually I think until somebody test drives one,
mm,
so if you're watching or listening to this
yeah,
podcast and you've got your thoughts on electric, I just say go and test drive one.
go,
Get a good dealership that
yeah,
will help you, because some dealerships will chuck you in a car and they won't tell you about
mm,
regenerative braking, which is brilliant, isn't it, David?
it's wonderful. Yeah,
Which basically means that you are controlling the car with your accelerator.
that's right.
You don't have to
The
brake
one
as
drive pedal.
much.
Yes.
One pedal
Mm,
driving is amazing, and kind of just get, even if you just choose a model, go to, I know somebody was on my podcast
mm,
recently saying, just go to a garage, choose the model that you like.
yeah.
You could always, like we had VW Golfs. I just didn't particularly like the ID3. Do you know what I mean? But I did take it for test drives. I went and test drove loads.
Mm,
But once you've been in one and you start, getting to know them a little bit and learn a little bit, because that's the other thing. It's the learning. It's kind of finding out. Listen. I'm not trying to just plug my podcast, but listen to my podcast the early days when I didn't have an EV, and that's the reason why I set up the podcast, because actually I wanted to learn from people, because I was like, I haven't got a clue about all of this stuff.
wow.
So I interviewed loads of different people who were talking about various things, and also I had people who've got like heat pumps and stuff like that, so it's not just EVs, it's everything, and climate and stuff like that. Just got to go to try and be discerning with who you listen to
Mm,
about all of this stuff.
yeah.
Don't just take it from Dave down the pub, the crap.
Yeah.
Just get in one
Well, if you met me
and
down
try it
the
out.
pub, I'd be an evangelist as well, so that would be fine. So
So would I. So would I.
it's my last question then, Liz. What's next for you, for ChargeWise, for the podcast? What how do you see the next 12 months panning out?
So Michelle, who is the other director with me, she'd probably say world domination, but I mean, that's a little bit large, isn't it? In the next 12 months, to get all of the charging networks on board and to be providing some really flipping good insights to all of the local authorities, to government. I don't even know whether that's probably a bit further down the line. And just be able to provide some transparency and for people to be able to see where we are currently, that actually, yes, there's things that we need to do, but there's also some good things that are going on as well. And at the moment, we haven't got that unified picture. And I think we can kind of bring that. That's what we can do in the next 12 months. But also we need some investment to kind of grow the business and actually get more people in to move this forward the way that we need to.
Fantastic. Well, Liz, with the help you've given me, we will definitely put all the links up to the podcast and to the company itself. Really happy to kind of help you for any kind of investment path or whatever, because I think it's really, really important. I think you're doing a very important thing. So this is what this whole community is about, helping each other, isn't it? So without
Thank
further
you.
ado, Liz, it's been a great chat. Yeah, it's brilliant to hear what you're doing. And thank you very much for your help in my EV transition. So yes, thank
I'm
you.
glad it was helpful. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Liz. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.